streaming. Right, hopefully folks, you will be able to see us. Just jot a quick message in if anybody's there, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to get going. I don't know what happened there, but YouTube just decided to end its own live session. Just going to look what's on my phone. Oh, no. I wonder if the chat disappeared as well. Oh, the people are coming back on now, so that's okay. Good. Not sure if any of you know anybody else who you can send a text to. Just send a text to them and or a messenger message, and let them know that to go back on. YouTube just had a wobbly and ended the stream without me even asking. So powers or things beyond my control, I'm afraid, on this occasion. So can't blame me for this one. It was YouTube. Right, we've got 8 back on. They're finding us slowly, so we'll just give it a few more minutes just to get people back on. I'm just wondering, as I've just said, to anybody who can hear me, if you know anybody, just text them or message them and tell them to come back on again with the new icon that I put up. That's the quickest new session I've ever done, that one. It was certainly a quick one. So we've got 9 or 10 back up. Stephen says it was probably me. Probably me. Yeah. No, we've got 10, but we're still missing 13 of what was with us a few minutes ago. Yeah, you should be able to see that picture of 4 ladies, which Brian was telling you all about when YouTube decided to just end the stream for me. Absolutely no blooming message or anything. It just stopped. Something that's beyond my control. Yeah, we've got a right problem tonight. It just keeps flashing and playing up for some strange reason, but the numbers are just slowly picking up. Going to carry on, I think, Brian, else we'll be waiting for everybody. We're up to 11 people back, but if we don't carry on, it's going to mess your timing up a bit. So
my timing's going to be short anyway, because I've got far too much here, so don't worry about it. We can do whatever we get done. That's all I'll say. Yeah,
you see, for strange reason. Oh, it's back again. I was going to say, blooming YouTube's just gone again, but it's yeah, somebody's just put there's a possibility of it lightning storm somewhere. So
okay.
Right, people, we're going to carry on, and in a few minutes Brian will just welcome people back and explain that we have carried on with 1 or 2 pictures, but there's some great content coming up, so people won't miss everything. So over to you, Brian.
Hi, well, welcome back everybody who's made it. I've gone back to where we were, I hope, or near enough. This was a photograph I took back in 1967 when I was working in Bristol, and I just to explain, if you look here, it's very much dated. You've got the old shelves up here, very much homemade stuff on a bracket, pretty sort of thing you'd put up at home if in your tool shop or anything like that. And the notice board here is the push pin board with its own surround around it and a bracket, a belt shelf across there. Look at the size of the old kettle. And then there's the coffee over the right-hand side. But this is a presentation to this young lady on the left-hand side. And these are the girls in the office, and they're just having this presentation. I think it might have been a birthday. I'm not quite sure. But what I'm interested with this one is to actually look at the composition. If you look through here, there's a perceived circle. And if you look within that circle, that's where most of the action is. So we've got the shelves at the top here with the filing boxes on it, and then the kettles within there, and the coffee and everything else, and the present is down there. And it's although these girls are looking outwards, the concentration is looking at this one over here. So it's obvious where the centre of attention is. And so the compositions for me sort of works quite well. I say, but considering it's over 50 years old, it's an interesting one. 2 1/4 square film. So not a lot of choice. Scanned from an old print, 2 1/4 square print. Not particularly cleaned up very much, but it gives you the idea of what was going on. This next picture was taken on a trip around the Dingle Peninsula in Ireland. And it was a case of probably how do I frame this up? When I'm stood there, I can see a vast landscape going farther left than you can see and farther right than you can go and see. So when I bring the camera up, I immediately restrict what I can see. And it's using that concept of framing that is important. So when you're using the camera, I think most times you concentrate on what's in the middle of the screen, but you've got to start and look around the edges and around the sides and around the corners, because these take on an importance which is much greater than you realise when you actually first look at it. So in this one here, I've chosen to put the horizon centrally because it's such a tranquil scene, and being honest with you, the sky is probably about as equally interesting as the foreground. So that's another reason for making that decision. My choice about where to go left and right was actually based on the fact that this peninsula is sticking out here, and it sort of echoes this land mass on the right-hand side, which is the darker materials on the right-hand side. There's this little tributary comes in, and I've taken a sort of leading line from here, a perceived line down there, and another one down here to give the focus of attention, which brings you down to the shoreline, where you hopefully explore either side and you find all the people walking up and down the shoreline. So that was my idea with that particular image. That's another oldish one. It's like it was taken in 2005, that one, on a Canon 300D, so it goes back a while, but it's an interesting image for me. This next one, this is one where luck comes into it again. I'd been studying, this is Bolsover Castle. I'd stood around looking through this archway and looking at the next archway beyond it and so on beyond that. And I decided that I got a scene beyond it, so that's something to look at. But I actually happened to notice that young lady was walking up and down. So I framed myself as well as I could to get all the elements in the right place and square. And I stood and waited until she came through. So yes, okay, I've observed, I've anticipated, it happens. The look element for me in this one is the fact that she just happened to be mid-stride, right bang in the middle of the element there. And I think that also adds to it. If she'd had her feet down, it would not have worked at all and you wouldn't have seen it. So that's where the element of look comes in occasionally. This one is taken on the back of a cruise ship. It's on the Thomson Dream. It's a pattern picture with symmetry in it. Again, it was taken a long time ago. This one's taken it's taken that long ago. I didn't write it down. Oh, 2011, surprisingly, not that long ago. But what I've seen with this is I'm out on the deck, and I've got my 15mm lens on the Canon 40D, and I spotted this pattern, so I positioned myself really central here, down here, so I've got the central line going through there. But I noticed here, look, there's a wake coming through, and that sort of brings you into this triangle here and concentrates the view down there, and then these lines coming down in helping support it as well. And then there's the beautiful patterns all the way around here, perfect symmetry, but the deck being clear really makes it nice. Bit of light on both sides, bit of light across here as the sun is coming across. And that one attracted my attention. It got good reflections as well, so it was another one that drew my eye on the day. This one, this is a barn owl that's being fed. That's why it's got a funny face. It's just swallowed a mouse whole. I put him in central, which might be a bit weak as composition is concerned. But what I've looked at with this one is the fact that I've got an L shape here, which is sort of framing him with some textures around the outside, which are quite interesting. Then the background is dark, and within that background, he's actually set on a third. So I've got a reason for placing him in there, which ends up being in the middle as it happens. But that was my idea of doing that. And with this one, it's all about the timing. I think I took about 4 photographs, but this is the one I enjoyed most, again, because his eyes are closed and he's just enjoying the fact that the whole mouse has gone down there. I don't think he's going to be doing a great deal for a while after that one, but that was the idea with that one. Beautiful textures around the outside as well with the wood. And this one, this is a bit of a contrast in some respects. We have a very stormy sky and sort of very stormy sea around here. This is Bridlington, and it's November 2011, and it's taken on a compact camera. I'm not bothered. I use whatever camera I've got with me. Sometimes I take a particular camera out with me because it's suitable for what I'm doing. On this occasion, I didn't think the weather looked very promising, so I just took my compact with me. I think at the time it was a Fuji F200 EXR, which I quite enjoyed using for a few years until the battery decided it wouldn't stay charged up at all, so I got rid of that one and moved on. But with this one, again, I've chosen to use a central horizon, which should be calming. So in some respects, if you look at the right-hand side over here, it's sort of calming. But then when you get over this side, you've got the storm coming on as well. So there's that bit of a contrast between the two. And I've got this beautiful curve coming around here, all the way down to the end there, and a curve on this side being echoed. So you've got a bit of shape in there as well. But the crucial thing for this one really is the people here. This is a bit of Michael Freeman's people in a landscape, and you've got the couple here walking along and the gentleman here or lady here walking the dog as well. Give you points of focus, and they give you scale to the whole thing as well. I mean, it doesn't look very big until you consider their height, and then you realise that this is probably 10 feet or so, and that's probably 15 feet thick. And it gives you some idea of the scale of the matter and how sort of strong the defences are there to keep the sea out. This one was taken at, I think it's at Wisby, this one. I have to check. Yes, it is taken at Wisby, the nature park near Lincoln. I'd gone out with a 40D with a 75-300 lens on it. I didn't have a macro lens at the time, so I was using the 300 end of the 75-300 to zoom in on this little ladybird and positioned it centrally. That's why I've cropped it square, and I was quite pleased with that to start with. But then the look element, I noticed if you look under here, there's a row of aphids. Dinner. The ladybird seems to be unaware of this, but there's another one at the top there as well, which I probably should have cloned out, but no worries there. But it's the shape here, so everything is sort of pointing you into the ladybird, but then when you see the ladybird, you also then begin to look around the picture, and across the bottom here, you see the row of aphids. And as I say, that is dinner for the I think it's on a nettle by the looks of things, so that's another bit of dinner as well, isn't it? Anyway, that's that one. This is the sea defences at Cleethorpes. This one, I go down there quite regularly with this to take these. I like the graphic nature of the defences there. We've got the lead-in line from the bottom left-hand corner sweeping around to the slipway here. This has now been replaced by a big stone whale tail, which you might see later on if I get that far. But this is all still there. It gets very, very slippery. It's the kind of place you can see from the seaweed down here that it can be a bit slippy to say the least. It gets worse the further up here later in the year, so it's that sort of thing. And usually you can find a shopping trolley or something down on the beach here, but there's nothing on this one. This was taken on a 28mm lens, which very fast f1.8 28mm lens on a Canon. And the reason I took it was I was trying out the 28mm lens because it's a standard lens as far as I'm concerned on a Canon. It converts to about 45mm, which is very well a standard 35mm lens, giving you the same view as the eye. So that was what one. They also got the figure in the landscape here, somebody on a bike going down that pathway. So again, you've got a bit of scale, and if you're really clear, looking closely, there's one of the forts out in the Humber there. And over here, just in view, is the Spurn Lighthouse. What is a relatively simple image, I suppose, this one. The reason I've included it is because I think I've actually tilted it a little bit, because basically these things tend to fly horizontal and give you very boring images. If that was square in the frame, rather like that triangle I'm drawing now, it wouldn't be as interesting as it is, because it's now going across the frame. So I'm looking at the line through its wing and seeing that this distance here and that distance there is about 2:1. I'm looking at the line this way. I'm seeing that that distance there is about the same as this distance up here, and that's what's giving me my composition for this one. And what I've really got as a bonus is the afterburners are on, and we can see the pulsing of the jets coming out the back here as well, which is going parallel to the tail fin. And we've got some beautiful detail in the underside of the plane as well. Unusual, because sun is never in the right place. It's always above the plane, isn't it, inevitably, which is, you'd hope it was, really. But that's the reason I included that one, is because what I've done is I've taken the image and actually twisted it round to get the construction that I wanted, the composition that I was looking for. This one, another wide angle lens. This was taken, we're down in Bradford upon Avon, and we've gone down for a midweek break. And we've stayed in a relatively posh hotel, so we decided to have coffee on the patio before we moved out. And you can see the room key there. And in the corner here, this is my little Fuji camera here. This is taken with a Canon camera with a 15mm lens on it. So I'm getting everything in and getting a little bit of distortion. The verticals are leaning out a little bit there, which is all adding to the effect as far as I'm concerned on this one. And it's just something that sort of took me as being a worthwhile image to take. You can see our coats we're going to take walking down into the town. It's quite a good walk, actually, and it was down, which was bad news when we came back, because it was definitely very much up. So this is all ready for us to have our morning coffee before we leave and go and visit whatever's in the village there, or the town. Now this one I call Great Aunt Maud. It's actually the storyteller from Whitby. If you've been to Whitby for the Goth weekend and you go up onto the castle at night time, which is lit, there's a tent up there, and usually there's this young lady sat in there reading Edgar Allan Poe novels. Part of the storyline there. And we went up for this, and after the performance she stood around. Went over to her and said, "Do you mind if I take your photograph?" She said no, so she stood there. All we've got is a tent with a couple of spotlights in it, so I positioned her under one of the spotlights, and being vertically challenged, I'm looking slightly up, which gives her that slightly haughty feel, and with some nice shadows because of the single light. And I quite enjoyed that one. It's been into competition a few times. That one had done reasonably well. The background's nice and black because there is no light there. It's just how it was. That again is taken on a compact camera. Again, I think it's the Fuji again. So it's been done quite well, that Fuji. I quite enjoyed using. The XR bit, by the way, gives you I think it's 12 megapixels if I remember rightly. And when the XR, it splits the megapixels into two 6 megapixel cameras effectively. One gives you an extra high resolution. One gives you an extra dynamic range by taking two photographs, slightly different different exposures. So you get a range from one picture combined to the range with the other picture, giving you a 12 megapixel image, a 6 megapixel image using two different photographs combined. And the third one is used in very low light situations where it combines 2 pixels to give you 1 pixel to double up the exposure. And I think it actually does this on its own if you set it on automatic, or you can choose. And I think this is probably what's happened there. It's actually gone into this extra mode to sort of give the detail in the face. This one was taken at Twycross Zoo, if I remember rightly. Yeah, Twycross. They'd just had this baby elephant born, and luck would have it, I was stood around waiting, and she decided to feed from its mother. I took about 4 shots of this one. I think this is the second one in the series. The first one was the baby elephant trying to locate the teat and to get itself in position. The second one was this one where it's actually feeding, and the third one is where the mother's trunk comes away saying you've had enough, and pushes it away. So I put that in as a panel of 3, and it did okay. I can't remember what the result was. It did okay anyway. It was mentioned in dispatches somewhere along the line. But I like the square crop on this. We've got a line through here, which is very nice. So this diagonal line is met there, giving a little bit of symmetry top and bottom there. And we've got nice textures in the skin around here and the hair, and all the way down this side, and some colour in the background. A little bit of work had to be done in here because it was a bit over bright, but it was interesting. I put it into another competition, and the judge didn't understand what the animal was. He couldn't work out it was a baby elephant, to be quite honest with you. I won't say who. Anyway, this one, this is Spider. It is alive. It is small. I'd gone down to Watton for the RPS, one of their photo shoots, and this one was at the Trent Poly. Normally I was photographing stuffed animals and bones, but on this occasion they brought a live spider in. Now, this was rather challenging. There wasn't very much light in the room. It was very active, and it's placed on a tray of chippings which are very, very similar colour to it. So I was there with a 60mm lens on a Fuji X-T10. It's called a macro lens, but it's only 2:1. It's not a true macro lens, but it does its job. To get this one, I actually had to use handheld because it wouldn't stay still long enough to sort of put it on a tripod and mess about. So it's handheld. I've used partial metering to get the metering on the head completely, and I think I took quite a few photographs, and this is the only one that was sharp. So I did try this one in a competition, and surprisingly enough, the judge said I'd rather like a lot more of it to be sharp. I thought, okay, a nail through the back might help, but that's about the only thing. Anyway, it's all there for everybody else, isn't it? I quite enjoyed it, so that's all that matters. Now, this one taken on the South Bank at London. Again, it's taken with the Fuji X-T10. I'd been walking along and I'd seen these policemen coming along, armed to the teeth. And I thought, I was under the impression you weren't supposed to photograph them. So I thought, right, very surreptitiously, I'm going to walk along. My camera's at waist height, and I'm all organised. And I walk along, I see the gap, click, got it. And I checked it out, not too bad. It's a little bit of a shame that this character here is hiding behind there, but overall not too bad. I turned around a few minutes later and saw a member of the public had stopped them and is posing in the middle of them. So I'd wasted my time actually trying to take that on, but it was good fun. And as a challenge to actually achieve it, it was quite well worth having a go. And to get them slap bang in the middle there, that's where again you come with a bit of luck. And if I'd had a little bit more luck, that one would have been visible as well. But anyway, good fun, good fun. This one is taken as a reenactment weekend at Cleethorpes. It's down, I can't remember the name of the street, but that doesn't matter. Seaview Street. And I saw this young character here, and I thought, well, he's a bit of a jack the lad. Look, he's even got the dewdrop hanging from the end of the nose, just beginning there. He's obviously enjoying. He's been set up with his hat, tin hat, and his rifle, and he thinks it's great. And he's there. Now, you can ask me probably, why did I not crop this edge off here? Well, the answer is he's looking at this character on the right-hand side. So I think that is important. There is a gap there, but what's it matter? So I spotted this, and I just sort of stood back, observed it, and anticipated that. I didn't anticipate the smile, but the smile came. And it's just the joy in that young lad's face of having that. Notice also in the foreground there's about 3 or 4 pints of beer just down here. I don't want to make you feel thirsty, but that's it. Okay. Another aircraft shot. I think basically aircraft shots are generally boring. This one, I think I took 200 on the day, and this is the only one I would show to anybody. It was a really bad day. I think it's the first time I tried photographing an air display. I was using a 1/2400 lens, the old Sigma 1/2400, on a Canon camera. Which camera would it be? It'd be the 40D again. Well, I say I think took over 200 photographs, and that's the only one that I came out with. And again, I've adjusted the angle on that one to make it look more dynamic. So I've looked at where this sort of line is coming through, that line is coming through. And I like looking at lines. I think if that line goes through and I've got that distance there, roughly the same as this distance here, I've got that about right. If I look at this one this way and I think that distance there is not much different to that one up here, then I'm getting fairly right as far as where the placement is concerned. I've got a little space to go into. I've got a little bit of movement in the prop, so I'm happy with that one. And to gather this smoke trail being let off at the same time is a bonus. So again, that's where that one came into. Another old one. Now this one is taken on a Praktika with a 135 Soligor lens on it. I can remember this event. I used to do stage lighting for the school and help with the drama department, as well as running a photographic club. And we took this young character who was one of the heartthrobs of the sixth form. All the girls fancied him, so we took him down to the local park to take a photograph as a for the program. And this one was taken of him. I'm stood well behind all the kids from the photograph group taking his photograph. And I'm stood well back with my 135 lens, and I just managed to frame him up there on the right hand third, the eyes on a slight tilt, and I was really pleased with this one. I've had this one around for a long time, and I just thought it's worth including to show the sort of thing you can do. Now you're going to probably say, well, why do this one? This is the new litter bins they've been putting around at Cleethorpes. I think they'd only been out probably a month or so by the time I took this one. What I did with this, it's just purely composition for me. I'm looking at the shapes in here and I'm looking, okay, there's my rule of thirds line down here. So I've got this box in the right hand third. I've got 2/3 of it over here. If we look at this shutter here, it's about half of that, which is 1:2, again the thirds. I've got some blue sky and this colour here, again splitting that area in thirds. This is probably splitting that roughly thirds, and I've managed to square everything up good and proper. To get this one to work, I actually did take it at the right angle. I haven't squared it up a great deal. I moved left and right until I could see the echo of this bin with that bin over there, and I've got it within the areas here. So I am consciously making this photograph, as I say, and then the piece on the right hand side, I'm quite happy that is there because it's all rectangular. You do need to bear in mind that everything gets close to the edge. That needs to be as parallel as you can make it to this edge, otherwise it's going to be very noticeable. There is a slight bend on that one, it's slight toeing out. And there is a slight one on this end, I think, but it's about as close as I could get without sort of disturbing anything. That's taken with a standard lens on a Fuji, the 1855. I think, if I remember rightly, that one is at 18 mil. No, it's 22 mil, so it's really close at the wide angle lens. And so it's just zoomed in that little bit just to give me the framing that I wanted. Oh, this one's a bit of a chance one. We went to the Farne Islands. This is back in 2007, so I've only got the 300D, is it then? Yeah, I've got a 300D and a 75-300 lens. I don't really know what I'm doing, but what I did with this one, I spotted these turns. We got to the island, as you do, and the guy says, I presume you've all brought a hat? And so everybody says, why? He says, the turns will attack your head. Okay, I hadn't brought a hat, but one thing, I ended up with a bit of a bald spot, which had a bit of a red mark or two on it by the time I'd left. Anyway, so I decided I wanted to catch a turn about in tack mode. And this is one of the best ones I came up with. The reason I like this is because there's this line of sight for the turn, which brings you down to this person's head. And that is the target that it's going for. And I just like I don't mind all this expanse of space down here. It's just that you can almost see the eye of this bird looking down there saying, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get that one. And the reason they do attack you is because the nests are so close to where you have to walk. And so the little beasts will not leave you alone. They really do give you, when you look at the length of that beak and how pointed it is, they do definitely leave their mark. Okay, British Superbikes at Cadwell. These are the fast boys. This is looking down just before the zigzag up to the mountain. Um, uh, I quite like looking down and seeing what you can come up with on this one. I'd anticipated with a bit of luck I was going to get a good shadow because of where the sun was. The sun is falling on this area here, so controlling the light's a little bit of a problem. I've got the road here and either side with a panel of glass at the top and a panel of glass at the bottom, very balanced. And I've got the whole of the shadow in, which is good because I think that's important. I've got a little bit of movement in the wheels, and which is enough for me. And they've got enough sway for him to move into. And when I'm doing this, it's not always the fast guy I'm looking for. I'm looking for the guy with a colourful outfit on. So this time I'd found this one with red and yellow, and I thought I followed him. I'd pick him up several times when he came round, and hopefully I'm going to get a picture that works. I don't know who it is. If I asked my lad, I'm sure he would tell me. I tried looking it up, but I can't find the name, so it's just one of those things. But I just like the composition on that one with the diagonal lines, the white lines, this borders. Everything seems to work just nicely. Another old one. This is the old penny slots. I can't make up my mind. I think it was taken in Western Supermare, which would make it about 1967 again, about the same time I was working in Bristol. I don't think it's Cleethorpes. I'm fairly sure it's down there. And it's just the way that it was typical of the times. Two young men would take their girlfriend out, probably one girl, and they would both spoil them and give them all their pennies for her to play on the slots and have a good time. But it's also reminiscent of the days when these slots were around and sort of entertainment was relatively cheap. If you look at his shoes, they're almost winkle because she's got a slight heel on hers. Very much of the day. I don't think they were ladders in her tights. I think that's dots on the spot, on the negative, on the print rather. But it just reminded me of the time, and I thought it's worth a look at. This one, surprisingly enough, this was taken just outside our front door. I'd come home from a photo shoot, and I'd got my 2470 lens. I'd gone mad by this time and bought a 7D, and I bought a Sigma 2470 f2.8 and a Sigma 70 to 200 f2.8 lens, thinking I've got the bee's knees. I couldn't afford the real stuff, but I could afford those two, so I got those in. This is taken on this 2470. And I say the lighting, the green behind it just happened to be right. I think it's taken at f2.8. Yes, it's taken at f2.8 at 70mm. And I like, again, the use of negative space. I really do enjoy using negative space. It's all to do with balance. So we've got a larger volume of green balanced by a small volume of red. And there are some, if you go and look at the hierarchies of colours, you can find out the ratios of which things balance. But I think that's pretty close. That they call them heavier and lighter colours. I think green is a light colour and red is a heavy colour. I think the two balance that way round. Then we've got some beautiful detail in the bee here as well, and it all sort of sits in the right sort of place. There's a hint of purple in the bottom there with some other flowers coming in. This one was taken at the 50th anniversary of the Italian job. It was the minis came to Cleethorpes, and there was minis of all ages. And this is the sort of latest one that's done by BMW. And this guy has spent an awful lot of money on his interior, and he's really proud of it. So I'm chatting to him, and he says, "Do you want to have a look inside?" "Oh yeah, I'll take a photograph if you don't mind." So we get inside and have a quick look at the detail on that one. Leather. Okay, it's a bit bland in the centre here. I couldn't think of a way round doing that. The door doesn't go so you could get across it. If you did, you'd lose all the detail in this side as well. So it's a case of a trade-off, really, of leaving that bad piece in and sort of getting all the rest of the dials here. All the dials going across there, all these nice shapes. No real distractions. There's a bit of a white line here, possibly. Nothing to really worry about. There's the seat, the leather seat coming in, the radio, speaker, all these lovely gadgets down the middle here, and the chrome lever. He's really gone to town with this one and enjoyed it. So, yeah, why not show it off for him? Another one from Cadwell. Again, this is taken on a 15mm lens. And if you've ever used a 15mm lens, you'll realise how damn close I am to this guy. I mean, he virtually ran over my feet, to be quite honest with you. People say, well, okay, you missed the top and the top of his helmet off, and you missed the wheel out. Does that matter? Okay. Well, there's a guy called Gestalt who sort of had this theory that if you know what a helmet looks like and you only see part of a helmet, you actually fill that in and use similar sort of things with wheels. So mentally, you are filling in the rest of the helmet and the wheel. So that's my excuse for not getting them both in. Besides, you'd be too far away if I went for that. You wouldn't see the detail in him, which is what I wanted. He's near enough taking it. He's following this character here. So that's what I was after, and I'm also pleased about the way I've got the spectators in the gaps. There's something going on in the gaps which you do need to have, and that's a bit of luck again, really. I'd seen him coming out, so I knew what was going to happen. I didn't rely on this series of shadows here. That's a bonus to get the pattern of shadows there as well. But yeah, okay, another interesting one. This is the Albert Dock in Liverpool. We'd gone there for the day, well, for the week actually. Made the mistake of staying in Toxteth. We'd forgotten about the word Toxteth. Anyway, that's where we were staying, and it was, again, made the mistake of staying on the top of a hill. Walking down into Liverpool was okay, but walking back to the hotel in the evening was a bit bad after a day's walking around Liverpool. Anyway, this was towards the end of the day. We've come back to the Albert Dock, and the storm clouds are gathering, and I just sort of enjoyed the image, so I put a central line for the horizon to give the nice symmetry and make it nice and restful. This image has probably seen about 30 or 40 versions of it, because every time I want to give a demonstration of Nik effects, I tend to use this image because it can do great things with Nik effects and make some really strange images out of the same one, give it a completely different feel, which is good fun. Anyway, that one's taken. It's taken on a Fuji again, on an 18mm lens. Nothing particularly special with it. I don't know how many of you remember Mike Thompson. He used to be one of the leading lights at Cleethorpes Camera Club. Mike and I used to go in and set the studio lights up for people for an evening session, and I was the one that took the camera, and Mike always had to be the model. So he's the one that got his photograph taken, and me, I was always one taking the photograph. This is one of those taken on a setup, and we just about got the lights right, and I just liked it. I think it shows what Mike really looks like. It sums him up very serious and very good. There is actually, he had on this occasion, he'd actually banged his head on something up here. There was a small scar, but I got rid of that because it sort of drew the eye. Again, I've used this one in competition. Did well in one competition. The other one, the guy decided he didn't like this big space at the top here. I don't have any problem with that. I just think it's all to do with balance and more than anything else. And it's personal stuff. If you're going to put these things in a competition, you've got to accept what comes with them, haven't you, basically? Another old one now. This is one in Sandringham. The wife and I drove. Well, I don't think she was the wife at the time. I got a suspicious feeling this is probably about 1966 when I first got my car, and we decided to travel around and have a look at various places. And this is Sandringham House, and I put it again sort of a divider across the middle here, which I quite like. So the beautiful shadows in the foreground, the building under the tree being surrounded by the tree across the top here, putting your eye into that building. But what I find interesting is these people here. It looks like a nanny with grandma and child. I was asking if it's the Queen Mum, but it isn't. This one, I began to wonder whether I'd actually taken this picture, because when I found it, it got a strange numbering system on it. I eventually did find it in my archive. I'd taken it at Tatton Park. We'd gone to Tatton because my daughter-in-law won 2 tickets for Tatton, and they didn't want to go, so they gave us the tickets. So it cost us 2 nights in a hotel to go to Tatton, but it was quite worth it, I think. This is a bee going into an agapanthus. I like the colour on this one. We've got the greens going against the purples, which is good. Bit of texture in the background here. I, again, would never crop this down to the being tight. I don't think it works. I think you need this space here to balance it. Enough of it is sharp. If we have a look, again, it's taken at f2.8. But I just think it sort of works, and you can just see the stamen sticking out here, plenty of detail in that area. And because of these are fuzzy, we don't worry about that being fuzzy because we still know what it is. If it was fuzzy and we didn't know what it was, then it would probably be a bit more of a distraction, but we know it's just more of the plant, so it's not to worry about at all. Okay, right, second quote. This is Alan Irwitt. To me, photography is an art of observation. It's about finding something interesting in an ordinary place. I found it has little to do with the things you see and everything to do with the way you see them. And I think that's a very important quote because it is, every time you see something, you've got to put your own interpretation on it to bring out what you intended to say about that observation. And it is a way that I tend to work, to be quite honest with you. I've found quotes that do back up the way I work. I see things, I work around how to take them and hopefully come away with the image I'm looking for. This is an example, for instance. This is taken at Water's Edge in Barton-upon-Humber, the nature reserve there. I've been there many times and I've taken virtually everything there is to take. On this occasion, I decided to set myself a bit of a challenge. I took a compact with me. This time it's a Lumix LF1, which has got a 24 to 200 zoom on it. I thought, okay, we're going to take that round there. It's not long enough for taking nature shots, but there's got to be something worth taking. And I came across these strong shadows, and I like the S shape we're getting from here. The curve around there, going back around this way towards the actual centre, which is over here. And so I published this one on Facebook just recently as a pattern shot. And one of my colleagues, who Graham might have heard me mention, who decided we ought to have a selfie competition at our club, decided to mention that these swans over here are a distraction. I agree with him, they are, but I just hadn't bothered to take them out. You might remember that, Graham.
Yes.
Okay, another one from Liverpool. This is in the it's the Beatles Story Cafe, and down in the cafe in the basement they've got lyrics from all the Beatles songs around there, and it's just a bit of a challenge because the lighting isn't ever so good. So I just tried to compose things as I thought they were going to be. The lighting's a bit strange as well. If you start playing with the lighting, it goes awful. So I've let it run as it virtually was from the camera. So we've got, I think it's George, Paul, and Ringo. John's not there this time. Some of the lyrics down this side, and the chairs, the plastic chairs with posh legs on them. That table can't have been level because this is level here, and I think it's one of those things that sort of screws you as a photographer, isn't it? It's the fact that it's twisted, you can't do anything with it. And then we've got some beautiful colours across the top there. It's just something, being a Beatles fan, it appeals, so I had to work out a composition where I could get away with this. I put this pillar on the third, that's on the halfway for a bit of relaxing, and the lights are shining up into the top there to bring your eye up into the words over this side. And he's looking out. Does that matter? No. You wonder what he's looking at. The chances are he's probably looking at John, who's looking at him. Anyway, it's just a thought. This one, this is taken at St Pancras, and that is the Betchman statue with the two clocks. Now, this clock is the original clock from St Pancras, and it is very old. It's a Victorian clock. This one here is called the Black Clock, I think, and it is a copy of this clock done by a local sculptor. It works, as you can see, the times are echo, but it is definitely a copy of that clock done in black. And I think one of the ideas was that they're talking about it being more time on your hands, because everybody is always curious about time and looking at things. So you've got these two clocks reinforcing whether you're late or you're not. This character is here. Betchman is there. For one thing, he wrote a poem about trains, but more importantly, he was part of the society that he was a deputy chair of the society, of the Victorian Building Society, I think it was, that managed to get St Pancras preserved. They were around the 60s. They were going to knock it all down, all the way down St Pancras Station, the big hotel there, and also King's Cross, and make it all into a modern development. But he fought against it and managed to get the Grade 1 listing placed on it, and that's why he's there as a statue. He's a fairly dishevelled character when you see him, but I just like the idea, this juxtaposition between him and this area here. I didn't know all the story at the time, but I liked the image I was creating, so that's something I went for. This one, we were very lucky as a camera club. We have a member who works on a local nature reserve. It's called Birkenshaw's Culvert. It belongs to, I think it is ICI or something like that. Well, one of the chemical companies anyway. And as part of their putting back into the countryside, they've maintained this plot for nature. One of the reasons I think they did it is they have a major power line going across the top and they can't do much underneath it anyway. But then they've extended that a bit to go either side to make a very good nature reserve. Now this one, I've included this one because if we're talking about positive and negative space and picture and ground, it makes quite an interesting discussion point. So what is the subject? Is the subject just the ladybird? Or does this leaf become part of the subject? And if that becomes part of the subject, how much more becomes part of it? So it's quite an interesting discussion point. But then there's the placement of this thing, which is sort of top third and halfway. So what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at a line coming through this way. And if you notice what I'm talking about, again, what I said before, that distance here is roughly that distance here. So I've seen that line, so that's one of the reasons I decided to crop that way around. And then coming through this way, I've got a similar sort of line to the one of the aircraft ones, where I've got a line coming through there, which against this distance here makes a similar distance to that one up here. And that's why I chose to place it in that position. It is actually consciously placed there because that is near enough the original shot. There's not a great deal of cropping done on that one. I might have tied it up just to get rid of it, this little edge down this side, but that's about it. So that's where that one came from. Now this one now.
On that one, Brian,
yeah,
we're at 8 o'clock now, so if we could give the members 10 minutes and just for a break. If you leave the picture where it is now, and we'll leave me and you just as we are, and then everybody join us at 10 past again, and we'll try and get going for 15 minutes past. So see you all in 10 minutes. Go to the new icon as you do usually.
Okay, see you then.
Yeah, I thought I'll start a new session so